Right, so I'm going to guide you through here a practice session. Most of my practice is just kind of done almost within the lesson when I'm demonstrating a few shots, same thing at short game schools, but I do pride myself on being a coach who can actually demonstrate shots as well as talk about them. I think it's important to be able to show people how to play the shots as well. So I'm going to have a practice session. I'm going to go through some different shots, talk about some of the things I'm maybe sort of working on, almost give myself a little bit of a lesson, and how I would structure a fairly short practice session in terms of technique and in terms of maybe testing it as well in some sort of competitive environment. So we're going to do some block practice first. That's basically just repetition, really going through my basics at address and some key kind of checkpoints in my swing that I'm looking for. We'll go from there. So I'm going to play this front pin first. I've got my 56 degree and I'm going to play my standard release one, chip and run. Greens are fairly soft, a little bit windy today, got a little wind off the left. I'm just going to hit some shots and just get a feel really for how I'm striking it. So that ball came off a little bit hot, it's gone about 3-4 feet past the hole. You can see how I've got that little stubby divot. I don't really like that sort of divot. So that was telling me there that I've driven a bit too hard and got underneath. So I'm just going to now just make a few practice swings and just try and feel how maybe a bit lighter in my grip, and how I really want to get the feeling of this left shoulder working up and around. So I'm working this way and not underneath too much. One of the other things I'll always check as well, for me, my right shoulder does tend to sort of get quite low when I set up. That's pretty much because I've been playing golf for 40 odd years. And obviously if you've hit a lot of golf shots over your life, you can tell a golfer from miles away. All golfers that play like have the right shoulder sort of lower in life. And also carrying a bag before the double straps. You know, I remember as a junior for 10 years or 15 years, I'd be carrying a single strap bag and that would also weigh you down. So I'm battling against that kind of naturally. So I have to really feel like I get my pelvis tucked in, try and level my shoulders off as much as possible. And that then helps me work much more around the corner and get a better strike. So level the shoulders as best I can, softer, and then that's so much better. So that ball came off much softer, no divot, exactly what I want to see and hear as well when I'm practicing. And I think sound is so important when you're chipping. You know, I can give a short game lesson really looking the other way just based on the sound, and that's feeling really good now. That's coming off exactly as I want. I can just feel that front section of the bounce, which is what release one is all about. I can feel that just bruising the ground very much against that first little stubby one, which I really don't like. And I'm starting to feel my arms been softer. I know my stance is pretty good. I look for ball just back of centre here. I look for a little bit of foot flare to create this pivot point. Soft arms, a little bit of hip turn, which is important to get that going back and get the club more or less in line with my spine. But it's really about, for me now, just leveling off and work. That's coming off lovely now. Okay, so I'm going to play a few to the back pin now. So I'm going to really try and stick to the same technique I was just working on there. I'm just going to go less loft. So I've got a 52 now. I really feel like I'm going to just work a little bit of toe release here, just to try and almost draw it a little bit. I like to feel when I'm playing these release one chip and runs, particularly on a soft green, that I'm not holding the face this way because that would spin it too much. So I just want to feel a little bit of rotation that way. And again, that's really nice now. So that's lovely. See, that went a little bit lower, spun a little bit, and then went forward. So just letting that toe gently turn over. It's not a hook chip, which I talk about, you know, in the book. It's not a hook chip. It's just a gentle rotation of the face, and it helps it work up there as well. So that's feeling pretty good with the lofted wedges for my release ones. I'm now going to test it with a little bit less loft. So I've got a 9-iron in my hand now. It's important you do this. Don't just stick to one club when you're practicing. Make sure you're prepared to change the loft, because that's really what builds feel and gets you more versatile. So we've got a 9-iron. 9-iron's around about a third carry, 2/3 roll, maybe a bit more today with it being soft and uphill. Same sort of thing in terms of setup. I'm looking to be soft in the transition and move around. Again, that felt really, really nice. And you see how that just runs out there nicely. Don't have to worry too much about the spin with a 9-iron, which is useful on soft greens. Because I see a lot of players using too much loft when you're playing these shots that play a really nice shot, to be fair, and then it just it just spins up and doesn't get there. You don't have to worry about that with a 9. You can see how that ball's just running out, running out, running out. Such an easy way to chip. So if you're not going down to these stronger lofts, you really are missing out. So now I've got a 7-iron. I'm going to land a 7-iron a little bit shorter. Now the 7-iron is going to have less spin. It's going to run out more, which is great. The argument is you lose a bit of control, but you're only landing it just in front of you. So you kind of gain control in respect of it's a shorter swing, it's a more controlled swing. And when you've got more green to work with and up-tiered greens, the 7-iron is a brilliant club. So let's work on that. Shoulders, soft here for me. Release that front hip around the corner. I see this run out a little bit more. I see that ball speed now really running out. And I genuinely feel with 7-iron, I could do that 100 times out of 100. It is so safe, particularly if you've got tight lies, you're a little bit edgy. Less loft is just totally the way to go. So I feel pretty confident there. I've worked on my shoulders, I've worked on my grip pressure, I've just made sure I'm not pulling and going this way. I felt like the club's releasing a little bit more here and around the corner. Play some nice shots. I'm now going to work on some release 2s. Right, so I'm going to work on some soft landing shots now. The lies here are okay. I'm going to give myself okay lies here because I wouldn't attempt it if it was a bad lie. If it was a bad lie, that's a different shot, it's a different kind of way of thinking about the shot. There's a video on that, by the way. If you look at that, about trouble shots, check that out. But this is for a good lie, which gives me the green light to play this shot. So I'm just going to play a few to this pin here. What, I've got about 6 yards to carry. Pin's about another 3 or 4 on. So that felt okay. A little bit stuck underneath that, but the beauty there was I had good technique. The club's in a good position. I hit that 2 inches behind the ball, but I fit it to a foot. All right, so that's telling me my technique's not too far away. I'm just going to try and this time let the club fall, and I'm just going to work around a little bit more. So even as I'm sort of watching the ball, I'm going to keep moving. So that's so much better. So the spin on the ball, you could see there with the pics of these TP5s, the spin was much greater there. Okay, you could really see that spinning. That was much better. So my thought there was let the club fall, turn after the ball. Let it fall, turn after the ball. Yeah, that's nice. It rhymes as well. If it rhymes, it chimes. There we go. Really soft grip pressure for this shot as well, right? Super soft. If you've got any tension here, it's not going to release. It's something, you know, I have to remind myself as well when I'm competing, there's a little bit of pressure. Just the first thing I'll go to is just a practice swing and really release that tension. I'm going to hit a couple now, my thumbs off actually, because that's a nice way of making sure you're not grabbing it too much. So thumbs off the grip. And it just comes off with so much more control on the ball there. So let's now to play some longer shots. We're going to go to this pin on the right here now, on the left, sorry, a bit further on. There's a little branch down there that's kind of halfway on the green. I've got to carry that there. I'm using 56 degree here, by the way. That's the longer swing. Got to lengthen the swing. Yeah, that's coming off nice. That's good. So I really feel here that my transition is going to be really slow motion, really smooth. Working it here, a bit of folding the elbow, long enough backswing. On the right lip. In terms of practice, when I'm working on this shot, I actually like practicing with a stronger loft, because when you have a stronger loft, it sort of encourages it to come off. It encourages you to play it a little bit softer. So I've got a 52 now. And a 52 probably is almost just the club for this back pin because there's so much green. If I release it correctly, you can see it still spins up pretty nicely. It just goes in lower. So it still spins loads. You could even do that as a drill with a pitching wedge. And that's where you probably leave it. You won't go any stronger than this, but a wedge now. I'm just going to see if I can do a release two with a wedge. and still get it coming off soft and spinning. Look at that spin with a pitching wedge. So I love this as a drill. If I really feel like I'm getting a bit drivey and a bit ball's coming off a bit hot, I'll go to a really strong loft like a pitching wedge and get that ball landing as softly as I can. Oh, lips out again. So that's what I like. So quite happy with release 2, okay. I'm going to do some release 3s now, just check that out. Right, so I'm going to play some release 3s now to this front pin, trying to imagine I'm going over something. The lie's okay, I wouldn't play a release 3 unless the lie wasn't. But yeah, key for me is making sure I cup the wrist, get as much loft as possible, keep the chips turning, get some nice little high flighted, really soft landing. This is the lob shot now. So if the lie wasn't okay, you'd play a different shot. That felt okay, so I'm really here, really looking to release it, but keep turning and putting it in the holster. Yeah, that feels fine. You see how narrow that is? That's what I'm trying to do. If I can put it in that holster and turn, okay, I know I've released it. I know my left wrist has come through this way rather than it turning this way, which gives you a longer arc through the ball. I'm trying to release it, round, and into the holster. Bunker play, well, a couple of bunker shots, but that's the best part of my game. But always worth checking when you're practicing, even if it's a strength. My main key point is release, obviously depending on the lie. If it's less sand, I'm going to go more this way, more sand, more release. But make sure after the ball, I'm always turning. So that's what I'm focusing on here. Like really turning after the ball. That's what gives it the height and the spin. That felt good and it sounded good as well. That's more of a release 2 lie. It's a little bit less sand, so I can still release it, but not the way all the way back to expose too much to the bounce. Yeah, it came off nice. It also came off really straight, which is important to me. I want to make sure I don't waste proximity on left and right. I want my ball going down the pin every time. Frustrates me when I see golfers get pin high and not down the line. I think that's a big waste, okay. I'm going to practice one off a tight lie. And there's a little release one, okay. So bunker play probably is the best part of my game. I'm happy with that, but it's a practice session. I just want to check it, just get a feel for it. That feels absolutely fine. So I can tick off my technique. I've got a few thoughts I've got to run through from my chip in terms of rotation and softness, and the bunker play and a lob shot. A few little thoughts, but overall, for my short game, it's a decent place at the moment. Right, so I've done my technical checks, I've done my block practice, which is repetition, ball after ball. I've got some good thoughts. I just want to check my ability to adapt, do some random practice. I'm going to throw 3 balls over my head. I'm going to play them as they lie, totally as they lie. Okay. Now this is a little awkward one because it's kind of sat down on a little bit of mud. I'm going to go to the pin on the right there. So that sort of lie there, I've got to make a little adjustment or else there's a good chance I'll miss it. My adjustment is going to be the ball's going to go further back, the shaft lean's going to go forward, make sure that leading edge gets a little stronger. I've got to be slightly steeper here, make sure I get ball first contact. I've got enough green, I can send this in low. I've got a 56, so play it further back. So you can, the divot's a little bit more stabby. That's what I need from this sort of lie to get a good contact, okay? Because it was sitting down, I couldn't really release the club as I normally would. So that would be more like a release 0.5, maybe or even a release 0. Now, this one as well, this is an awkward one. It's sitting down. I'll have a go for this front pin. Okay, so ideally I'd want the ball sitting nicely and I'd do a perfect release 2. I can't now because of the lie. Got 2 options. I could play the ball back in the stance and sort of bump it into the slope, or I could play a toe down, out and across. I'm going to give that a go. This way, stand open, high handle, out and across. And you can see the toe managed to just nip under the ball and pop it up. So just shows some good IQ there to be able to read the lie. Go through a few options and decide to play that one. Now, if you weren't confident in that, maybe a little hybrid bump up the slope would have been an option as well. You know, you've got to play to your ability and where you feel your short game is. Now this lie here, this is lying a bit better. You can see how the leading edge is sitting a little bit more under the ball. That's given me a green light to be able to play a release 2 shot. So that's no problem at all. Release it under. Oh, left lip, keeping the lip. Right, so that's a really good exercise. I do it all the time. Block practice, random practice. Throw it over your shoulder. See if you can adapt. It's really good for your golfing IQ, and it tests your technique if it's versatile enough. Right, so I've done my technical practice. I've done some random practice. Obviously, you can spend as long as you want. I'll just give you an example of what I do. I'm now going to do a quick test. Just try and kind of just put myself under a bit of pressure and just make sure my technique's holding up when there's a bit of pressure, as well as just a technical practice where it's pretty good. So I've got 3 pins here. You can do this with, you know, as many pins as you want, or just put head covers down or cones if you haven't got pins. And it's just 1 ball only. And I'm going to play 1 ball to each pin. I'm going to give myself a target here of, I'm going to give myself 10 feet to play with. So if I hit it to 1 foot for the first one, I've got 9 feet left. So there's a bit of pressure on it. So I'm going to use my 56, release 1 to this front pin. I know there's a bit of pressure on this because I've got to get it within the footage. Got it quite nice. Right, so I'm going to go for 9-iron to the back pin. Standard release 1. I know I've got to get it close, I'm under pressure. Played it well. It's got to break a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's 2.5 feet. We'll call that 3 feet. So I'm on 4 feet now. So I've got a little bit to play with, but I want to still get the job done nicely. So here. Oh, a little thin, that one, but it's okay. So that's 3 feet. So I did that challenge, I passed the challenge, okay. I've done it in 7 feet, passed the challenge, okay. It's a great drill. Be really creative with that. Try different pins, and if you beat it, so next time, if I was going to do that again, I'm going to try and beat 7 and keep getting it lower and lower and lower. Nice way of just testing your technique, and also just finishing off a really nice practice session. So make sure when you're out there practicing next, structure it. Do some technique, do some random practice, do some pressure competitive practice on top of that, and you'll get a lot more out of your practice sessions and really start mastering the short game.